Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Sagnick Dutta. I'm a third professional MBBS student at Bardwan Medical College and Hospital, West Bengal. In this video, I want to talk about another subject of first year of MBBS, and that is anatomy. Anatomy is a very peculiar subject. And why do I say that? There's a reason to that. Anatomy is that very subject which actually makes us feel like a real doctor in the first year of medical college itself. And the reason is simple, because we get to learn from the real human bodies. Though it is a dead body, a cadaver, but yet we get to learn a lot of things from it. Not only do we learn from the human bodies, but also we get to touch, feel and learn from the real human bones, real human organs. Even we get to see the microscopic structures of the real human tissues. And that is what makes the subject even more interesting and astonishing. Though being a subject of astonishment, a subject of interest, the fact remains that this is a subject which requires a lot of cramming. But this is what we really need to do. If this subject asks for cramming up, we will have to cram up the informations. There are a lot of informations in this subject, and this subject not only has got systematic aspects but also has got some subsidiaries like embryology and histology as well. So in this video, we would actually like to know and understand what are the different aspects of this subject and how should we approach the different aspects of the subject and how we can actually learn and understand the basics of this subject. I have been making a series of videos where I have been talking about the different subjects of second year and first year of how to deal with them. You have shown so much love to this series of videos, but it is very unfortunate to see that most of you actually do not subscribe to the channel. So if you really like these contents, consider subscribing to the channel as well. So without much ado, let us get into the video. This video is divided into 3 sections. In the first section, I would like to talk about the aspect of embryology. In the second section, I would like to talk about histology. And in the third section, I would like to talk about general anatomy and systemic anatomy. So without much ado, let us get into the very first section, that is embryology. Embryology as a part of a subject of anatomy is very important. Why do I say that? Because this actually forms the basis of the subject called as gynae obs and pediatrics, which you will be learning in your final year of MBBS. So learning embryology at its incipient stage is something very important. So let us just get into what we really need to learn and understand in this portion of embryology. What are the different resources? Let us get into that first. The resources that I used personally for the subject of embryology is this book called as Inderbir Singh's Human Embryology. This is a great book because it has got some real structures, some real pictures which you can always refer to when you do not get to understand. Apart from the real pictures, it has got the schematic diagrams of every aspect of embryology as well. Now, after having these diagrams, the very important thing that this book has is having structural explanation of the mechanism of development of different kinds of structures. Now, that is a very important aspect of the subject of embryology. For example, we need to know and understand what are the developmental procedures of the heart. How does the heart actually develop in the human being at its incipient stage? And that is so very well explained in this book called as Inderbir Singh's Human Embryology. When we have known about this segment of human embryology and its resource as a book, we need to know and understand what are the different videos that you can actually refer to. If I just talk about myself, I was a subscriber of Prep Ladder back then in my first year of MBBS, and I used to refer to Rajesh Kaushal sir's videos. He used to teach embryology in a great schematic way as well. He used to make us draw the different aspects of the developmental ways, and that had been very useful. Even if you are not a subscriber of that very teacher and that very platform, it's perfectly fine. What you should do actually is, when you read the book, you should actually make your own diagrams, and that makes this subject of embryology very easy. And that is something very important for this subject itself. You need to know and understand the diagrammatic approach showing the developmental procedures of a certain segment or a certain organ or a certain system. Talking about another free video resources which you can always refer to, and which I personally refer to as well, is the channel called as Ninja Nerd, which is available on YouTube. If you actually refer to that channel, there is already a created playlist, and you can refer to that for the subject of embryology, where the systemic embryology has been very well dealt with. Apart from that, these aspects of the general embryology like spermatogenesis, oogenesis, and the various gestational development have been very well dealt with. You can always refer to that channel for the subject of embryology. Now with that, we come to an end of this section of embryology. Now let us move forward to the subject of histology. Now histology is that portion of the subject of anatomy where we actually need to identify different kinds of animal tissues, mostly the human tissues, and we need to write some salient features of the same. Now what do we really need to do in this portion? Number one is something called as identification. You will have to identify the different kinds of slides that are being fixed under the microscope, and then what you need to do is write the salient features which actually differentiate them and helps them identifying as that particular slide, and you need to write them. So how should you actually approach this portion of the subject? What you should actually do is, you should practice drawing the slides, the schematic diagrams of the human tissues time and again, so that you get very well acquainted with the human tissues. Now after that, you need to know and understand and learn the salient identification points for every particular tissue. Once you learn and understand and remember these particular identification points, it becomes very easy for you to draw that particular tissue as well. And if you just talk about the different resources, the one resource that you can refer to is this book of Human Histology by Dr. Inderbir Singh itself. Now there is no other resource for this particular aspect of human histology. And why do I say that? And even you do not need this book in its entirety. The only thing that you need to remember are the salient features. Draw the particular tissues from this book and write the salient features of those tissues at a place, and that would get your job done. This portion of histology is something very scoring, something very not so tough as compared to the other aspects of the subject of anatomy. Now that being said, let us now move towards the last section, that is the systemic anatomy. We shall deal with this section in great detail. Now first let us talk about the different resources that you can refer to for this subject of systemic anatomy. I solely used the book called as Dr. B.D. Chaurasia's Human Anatomy. I have bought all the 4 volumes of this book. This book actually comes in 4 different volumes, and I have bought all the 4 volumes and have referred to all of them as well. Many people suggest that you can actually refer to Dr. Vishram Singh's book of Human Anatomy for the portion of neuroanatomy, you can obviously do that, because that is actually very true, that is written in great detail. But what I really like about this book of BDC is that it is written just like a handwritten note, point wise, headings and subheadings. The clinical anatomy is being written in a different box which can be easily referred to. The related anatomy is always written at the same portion as that of the original anatomy. For example, if we are being taught about the brachial plexus, is written in the book. Associated with that, the clinical anatomy is related in a colored box in that same very page and after the end of that same very topic. So that becomes very handy in this case. Apart from that, the radiological aspects, the radiograms, the x-rays, the skygrams, they are also given in a very proper way in the book of this BDC of human anatomy. I have always referred to this book of BD Chaurasia's Human Anatomy for any aspects related to the systemic human anatomy. Apart from this book, you can always refer to the other portions and volumes of Vishram Singh as well, because they are no doubt very good books and very helpful as well. Now, talking about the standard book of human anatomy, and that is this book called as the Gray's Anatomy. Now this is the South Asia edition and it comes in 2 volumes and is a great book to refer to as a standard book. There is another international edition of Gray's Anatomy that is there, and that is even larger and heftier to refer to. I have never ever referred to the Gray's Anatomy because I really didn't like the subject of anatomy as such, so I really found it not so useful to spend much time into learning anatomy to that level that I get into this book of Gray's Anatomy. Rather, I would have spent my time into learning and understanding physiology and biochemistry more in my first year of MBBS. So I have never touched this book of Gray's Anatomy. But if you are someone who likes this subject of human anatomy, you can always use this book of Gray's Anatomy, because that is just the absolute book for human anatomy. Now, having said that, let me just point out some great features of this book of Gray's Anatomy. As I just said, Gray's Anatomy is the standard book of human anatomy, the gold standard one. It has got everything that you need for a particular subject. Every intricate details are present in the book. Moreover, the diagrams, be it the real ones or the schematic ones, are in ample amount that makes this subject even easier. But the only disadvantage for this subject of Gray's Anatomy is that it is very hefty, because it includes a lot of information. So it becomes very difficult for you to actually understand which are the informations that you really need and which are the informations that you do not need. So it becomes very difficult, which is mostly the case for any gold standard book whatsoever it might be. So if you have that time which is there in your first year of MBBS, you can invest your time into that and enjoy the subject of anatomy. I know a lot of people in my college who have actually read the Gray's Anatomy book in its entirety and they have actually enjoyed this subject a lot. But I've always felt that anatomy is not my cup of tea, so I never really got interested into learning anatomy in first year of MBBS in so detail that I could actually refer to Gray's Anatomy. Having said that, I really want to talk about the different questions that are being asked in relation to this subject of anatomy. Most of the questions are being repeated every year. If you just solve the previous year questions of your university, then you will always get hold of the type of questions that are being asked. Mostly questions are clinical. You would be given a clinical scenario and related questions would be given depending on the anatomical aspects. In case of embryology, there is always a short answer question where you are asked to write about the developmental procedures. So developmental procedures become very important for the subject of embryology. Now, what I really want to talk about is the different kinds of muscles, their nerve supplies and their actions, and their related clinical anatomy, and how can you actually make them easily remembered for yourself. So what you should actually do is make a table. Use the tabular form of human anatomy where you write the different muscles. For example, you just take the lower extremity, the lower limbs. You write the different muscles, write their origins and insertions, then write the different nerves that are supplying them, and also write the root values of those nerves, which is, by the way, very important to remember the root values of different nerves. And after that, write the different kinds of actions that those particular muscles do. And once you are done with all of these, you should know the related clinical anatomy. What would be the cases, what are the different problems that may arise if the particular muscle and a particular nerve is affected. And that would actually help you a lot if you just do that it in a tabular way. I hope that would be very helpful for you as well. Now, after having said all of these, what I really want to say is that for the subject of anatomy, make some beautiful notes for yourself which you can always refer to so that this subject doesn't become monotonous for you. Discover ways by which you can remember this subject, because as I said earlier, this subject requires a lot of cramming, and because it asks for a lot of cramming, so you will have to cram the subject. And for that, if you have got some proper notes which you have yourself made for yourself, that would be really beneficial for you. That we come to an end of this video. If you really like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with whomever might find it helpful as well. Thank you. See you in the next one.